Welcome to my demonstration on a basic procedure of how I expect you, as new artists at my company, to mix color and store it. So, I have a handout for each of you. Please pass this. Thank you. I also have a business card for each of you. You can pass that over. A basic procedure for working at 90 Degree Studios. You, as new artists for my company, I'd like to go over the instructions for how to mix color and store color while we're working on a job site. This is important because sometimes I may not be around to do the actual color mixing. Usually I will do the color mixing, but I do expect you to all be able, with your experience in color theory and your past background as being mural artists yourselves, to resupply colors as needed. And this process is set up so that we can maintain our color consistency in each mural and follow the same procedures so that we all can find the materials we need easily and keep supply costs to a minimum, and also to avoid confusion on the work site, which is frustrating to everyone, of course. What's needed is in your handout. We're going to go over 8 basic steps on how to do this. And the first step is basically making sure that the mixing table is usually clear of everything, and that all of your supplies are clean and not wet with paint or any kind of debris or dirt on your tools. So, first things that we're going to be needing to put together here is starting with the items on the left side of the list. We're going to take the color sample that you need and tape it up to the wall that you're working nearest. So most of the colors, as we use them, there will already be an index card with the color on it and the color ratio. You'll look on the wall to find which color you're looking for. So once you find that card, keep it near you and always refer back to it as you're mixing. The next thing you're going to need are the 2 buckets and a half a cup of water. Okay, so we're going to start with water in just 1 bucket. You're going to basically choose which colors you're using for making your color sample. Something I like to point out about the universal tints that all mural artists use. These are the Cal Tint product, but there's also Pro line. Those are the 2 main manufacturers of the tints, and they follow basically the same guidelines. The thing about universal tints is that one of these bottles can actually mix up to 100 gallons of paint. Wow. So when you're mixing, start by using very small amounts at a time, very few drops as you're mixing. This is to keep it so we're not wasting tint. These bottles are very expensive. The average cost of the Cal Tint series for 1 bottle is over $30 just for this 1 bottle. So starting with a small amount of tint, drops by drops, and take your mixing stick, and basically as you mix it in here, start with a very small amount. We always start with a small amount of paint to get to our sample color first. When you've achieved this, add your acrylic water-based mixture and stir. Make sure that you thoroughly stir with a clean stick, as I said before, until you're completely mixed. Now, as we all know, when you add acrylic base to your tints, sometimes you lose your actual color. It can fade out, it can lighten up. There's, depending on the chemicals in each tint and the chemicals in the acrylic base, sometimes your color will change. There are extra tools that you can use that are in the mixing room to look at the color that we're looking for and how to get the chroma back up to the highest hue needed. So these are handy. We're all familiar with this tool especially. And there's also another color guide, which I expect you to all be familiar with these different color guides. These are the 2 that I have in my mixing room that you can refer to if ever needed. once you've corrected your color, grab a white index card, note card, that is stored on the shelves along with the tints, and take and paint on directly from your paint mixture. Paint directly onto the card. Now at this point we all know also that you kept in mind the ratio of tint that you have used and the amount of water that you have put into your mixture. Let the first sample that you've used dry. Once your sample is dry, take your ratio that you have, of course, kept in mind, and write your ratio down to, how many of each tint you've put in, how much water, and your acrylic base. So basically note that on the same card as your sample. When this is dry, you've written your mixture on here. If for some reason this doesn't match your original color that you were mixing, you can go ahead and add tints again slowly, one drop at a time, to achieve the exact color. The whole point is to make it exactly the same because of our consistency in the colors in our murals. It's very important to do this. So again, if you have to do another sample, just take the same card that you wrote your ratio on, did your original paint sample that's dry, just flip the card over and do it on the back side. Write your ratio again, let your paint sample dry, and then onto the wall where the original paint sample was. Keep them together. I also expect you to initial it and date the card so that I know who mixed it last and when. Now when you know that your new paint mixture is exactly the same color, take the lid that belongs to the bucket, secure it tightly onto the top. Take the brown tape and your black marker, which is the items on the right of our list. And secure the tape to the top of the lid. Go over the sides just a little bit so your lid does not fall off. Take the black Sharpie marker, write the name of your color. Every index card has the name and the purpose of what each color on the shelf is for. So write the same name or title on the lid on this. Also on this, the same as an index card, write your name and the date that you mixed it, and then put the whole bucket on the shelf, or use it if you need it at that moment. When you're done with all of this, I do expect the paint room to maintain a certain sense of order and cleanliness. Put all of the supplies that you've used back to where you got them from. Make sure that you close all of the caps on the tint bottles and wipe off the excess tint so that they don't dry up or get crusty or start to evaporate. It changes the consistency of the tints. Put those back on the shelf that they belong, and take all of your other items that you used and put them into the sink, wash them thoroughly, into the slop sink, wash them thoroughly, and then put them back in the paint room to dry. So that is the basic process for color mixing while working with my company. And I'm wondering if anybody has any questions as we went through these different steps.
You use blue tape.
Good question. The reason we don't use the blue tape and why we use the brown tape is because the brown tape is a lot less expensive than the blue tape, and the blue tape is only for when you're working with wet paints on the actual project. Very good question. Okay. If anybody has any questions, or if there's any problems that happen when you're on the work site and I'm not here at the work site to help or to answer questions, I gave each of you a card, my business card. My information is on the back of the card, which it has my cell phone number, my email. Okay. Does everybody understand the procedure of what is expected?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming today. I appreciate you watching this demonstration.
Thank you.